Then farewell, traveler. May we meet again soon.
斷咗4分鐘先，我都唔知邊度開始斷。喂，人呢？仲喺度？邊度開始斷嘅呢？4分鐘。求其啦，撳一撳。
Bronze sculptures have a long and varied history in Greece. During the geometric period of 900 to 700 BCE, the sculptures mainly depicted idealized heroes, charioteers, and horses, and most of them were dedicated to sanctuaries. The Orientalizing period followed in the 7th century BCE. During this time, Greeks began adopting sculpting techniques from the East, and the depicted statues expanded to include mythological creatures like griffins and sphinxes. The Archaic period saw statues that reflected a better understanding of human anatomy, which eventually culminated in the realistic and powerful human sculptures of the Hellenistic period. Argos was the home of Polykleitos, one of the most famous sculptors in ancient Greece. His works, like the Doryphorus and Diadomenos, as well as his treatise on sculpting called the Canon, had a massive impact on the art as a whole, particularly in regards to ideal body proportions. Sadly, the original versions of Polykleitos' sculptures have been lost, along with most bronze statues from antiquity. As time went on, many bronze statues were melted down to be recycled in things like weapons, ammunition, and even church bells. Because of this, marble copies from the Roman period are our best evidence of the masterpieces of Greek sculpture.
I see you have completed your tour. I trust you have a new appreciation for Greek sculptures, after learning of the heart and soul that was poured into each step of their creation. Now, what else would you like to do? Then let us dive right in. Here is your first question. Which era of sculpting came first?
唔明。
Correct. The geometric period lasted from 900 to 700 BCE, and mostly featured small-scale statues and statuettes of heroes and horses. On to the second question. Bronze was an alloy composed of which two metals? Yes. To get the bronze required for sculpting, metal workers first needed to smelt copper and tin. One last question for you. Which renowned sculptor was a native of Argos? Yes, Polykleitos was based in Argos and had an enormous impact on the art of sculpting. You've done well, traveler. Your knowledge of metalwork is astounding. And so, your quest for knowledge continues. Follow me.
係咪都係 Corinthia 呢度？再古老啲啦，呢個時期係賣石梨。
Welcome, traveler, to the ruins of Mikine. It is humbling to stand in the remnants of such a great civilization. Looking at these ruins, I am reminded that the past is never as far behind us as we think. These are the ruins of Mikine, center of the old Mikinian civilization. It was home to great warriors and heroes. In many ways, places like Athens and Sparta stand on the shoulders of its accomplishments. This tour will take you through its ruins and introduce you to its most important monuments, revealing its history in the process. I hope you enjoy yourself. I'll be waiting for you at the end of your visit.
The Mycenaean civilization flourished in the Late Bronze Age between 1600 and 1200 BCE. During this period, it was mainly located in the Peloponnese and central Greece. Mycenaeans were known for exploring distant lands. Notably, they battled the Hittite-allied city of Walusa in a conflict that was believed to be the inspiration for Homer's Trojan War. But the Mycenaean people didn't only travel to fight. They learned much from their neighbors, the Minoans of Crete, such as how to write syllabic script on clay tablets. Such tablets provide evidence that Mycenaeans spoke an early form of Greek. They also tell of how great Mycenaean kings ruled over their warriors from opulent palaces in places like Mycenae, Thebes, and Knossos.
嗰陣啲話比較似乎好多啲。
The entrance to Agamemnon's citadel, or the Lion Gate, is one of the most iconic monuments in Mycenae. It is impressive for both its height and for the intimidating rendering on its relief, which depicts two lions standing on either side of a column. Unfortunately, the lions' heads, which were presumably made of a precious metal or higher quality stone, have been lost to time. The gate was most likely meant to greet a triumphant king returning home from successful military campaigns and to awe foreign visitors.
兩個頭都唔見咗啦，現代。 咦？呢度係 Goddess。咪住，個分界線喺邊 ？OK， 咁樣切斷咗佢嘅。
When these shafts were discovered by archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann in 1876, he believed the 6 gold-filled graves to be connected with the family of the great king Agamemnon, even going so far as to proclaim a gold mask he found within to be the death mask of Agamemnon. However, this was refuted by later excavations, which showed that the 19 bodies buried in the shafts dated back to a few hundred years before Agamemnon was even born. In fact, at the time of the bodies' burial, the Lion Gate and the citadel walls had not even been built yet. It's estimated that the people in the graves were members of the first Mycenaean dynasty. The graves later became a place of worship for Mycenaean kings, who raised walls to protect them. These walls helped preserve several incredible artifacts, including women's jewelry, death masks, and masterfully crafted weapons.
OK， 咁應該係受呢個，應該係受埃及影響啦。至少係早過阿加美諾嘅，唔係遲過佢。點解要係 reproduction 呢？個原版喺邊呢？個原版可能塞咗喺嗰啲倉庫，妥善咁保存緊。即係你要 keep 住一個固定嘅溫度嘅之類咧，就喺個博物館嘅展時間就未必咁容易做到。
By 1250 BCE, Mycenae was at the height of its power, and its living quarters and workshops were numerous. Houses were built everywhere, from the top of the palace's hill near the king's residence, to the slopes and terraces within the walls, to the nearby hills outside the citadel. At one point, the citadel's walls even had to be enlarged to make room for more quarters. The people who lived inside the citadel were those with high status in either the military, religious, or administrative sectors of the kingdom. This is reflected by the ceramic and metal vessels inside the houses, as well as their painted plastered walls.
This幅係畫嚟嘅，住到幾多人呢？幾千人啦，我估啲石頭嘅屋呢，就係啲社會階級比較高嘅人住嘅，可能啲社會階級低少少嘅人咧就住喺外圍，可能唔係一啲石造嘅屋。 即係淨係用嚟瞓覺嘅啫間屋。呢幅畫係幾時畫嘅呢？佢隻 game 可以重現晒呢啲 texture 出嚟，都幾犀利嘅，其實都花好多心機整嘅。不過其實係重複緊，呢啲係 copy and paste 擺明。是但。
A traveler seeking an audience with the king would have first ascended a steep ramp from the Lion Gate to the Citadel's summit. Here, they would have walked into the palatial complex through a grand entrance called the Propylon. Once inside, their gaze would immediately be drawn to the palace's main hall, a monumental area known as the Megaron. The vividly decorated Megaron, which glittered with precious objects and colorful frescoes in its heyday, was where the king would have received the traveler. If the king was feeling generous, he would have shared with the visitor the palace's most marvelous feature, its commanding and majestic view, which stretched from the plain of Argolis to the gleaming Aegean Sea.
哦，原來係地震直爛嘅，咁真係冇辦法。咁早已經冧咗。唔可以講嘢嘅，你哋呢？呢度係 bandit 嚟嘅喎。哇，咁隱蔽啊！呢個位。現代整啲嘢好似仲差過希臘時期嗰啲。哇，好難揾啫咁樣，有可能揾到啊！冇寫任何嘢喎。我真係唔知之前有冇留過呢啲知識嘅。
It It was in this palace where a legendary Mycenaean king like Agamemnon would have held court. According to Homer and other poets, Agamemnon led the Greeks in the sack of Troy. Stories say that he was a fearsome warrior on par with Achilles, but also an overly ambitious and arrogant ruler. He sacrificed his own daughter, Iphigenia, to convince Artemis to grant his ship's passage to Troy. After conquering the city, he returned to Mycenae with mounds of riches, and a Trojan named Cassandra as his concubine. Agamemnon's wife Clytemnestra was not pleased with her husband's sacrifice of their daughter. She plotted to murder her husband out of anger. The plot was successful, and, depending on the version of the story, Agamemnon was either murdered in his bath by Clytemnestra or killed by his cousin Aegisthus during a banquet.
OK。
You've completed the tour. I trust it was an eye-opening experience. Though it did not last, Mycenae was a sort of precursor to what would eventually become the Greek civilization we know today. It's important we remember them, if only to avoid repeating their mistakes. Now, what else would you like to do? Then let's begin. First, I have quite a simple question. Which ancient city may have been the inspiration for Homer's depiction of Troy? Yes, the Mycenaeans' conflict with the city of Wilusa allegedly inspired Homer's Trojan War. Now, for the second question. Agamemnon sacrificed his daughter Iphigenia to convince which god to allow him to proceed to Troy?
呢個我唔記得啦。Artemis。
Yes, Agamemnon sacrificed Iphigenia to reconcile with Artemis, who then allowed his ships to pass to Troy. Now, one last question. What was the name of Agamemnon's Trojan concubine?
唔係又斷咗線係嘛？
What was the name of Agamemnon's Trojan concubine?
好斷。
Correct. Following the sack of Troy, Agamemnon sailed home with a Trojan prophetess named Cassandra. You've studied the ruins well, traveler.
同佢個名一樣，都係叫 Cassandra。
I appreciate your desire for more knowledge. Let us continue.
OK， 嚟到 Olympia 啦，玩埋呢個啦，今日。
Welcome, friend, to this especially sacred part of the Olympian sanctuary.
你唔係歷史人物嚟嘅喎。
My name is Varnavas, and I am a ship captain. Don't be fooled by my scarred eye. Though I've seen my share of combat, I mostly stick to trading these days. Well, trading and introducing visitors like you to wonderful sights like this.
唔係歷史人物嚟嘅，你呢個唔覺得佢會係啦 ？Barnabas 係聖經嘅人物，就唔係希臘人啦。唔係歷史人物嚟嘅呢個。Okay.
This place is practically vibrating with divine energy. I feel like if I look over my shoulder right now, Zeus will be staring back at me. The sanctuary of Olympia was dedicated to Zeus, king of the gods. It had close connections to the divine, as you will see very soon. I'll come find you when you're done, and we can talk about what you've learned.
咁佢係雕緊 ，OK。不過咁大嚿大理石可以整到依隻鷹咧？啊，再大嚿啲都有喎，其實，但係咁樣係嘥咗好多石㗎。我諗呢啲碎石會有其他用途，希望。
This workshop was built for the renowned sculptor Phidias after his work on the Acropolis of Athens. In 435 BCE, Phidias came to Olympia to begin working on the great chryselephantine statue of Zeus. He died 5 years later, shortly after completing his masterpiece. This grand statue would become one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Phidias's workshop was located right next to the Temple of Zeus. Its structure has been well preserved, mostly owing to its conversion to a church in the 5th century CE. Archaeologists have also discovered lots of ancient materials in the surrounding area, such as casting molds and sculpting tools. The most famous artifact, however, is a cup bearing an inscription that aggressively states, "I belong to Phidias." On the fifth and final day of the Olympic Games, victors attended a ceremony where they were crowned with olive wreaths and showered in flowers. The crowns came from the sacred olive tree of Zeus, which was planted near the god's temple. A young boy trimmed the branches with a golden sickle before giving them to the Hellanodikai to turn into wreaths. After the crowning ceremony, it was time for great feasting and celebration.
有幾多年啊？700有1000年喎，嗰度係咯，一年出3個，佢4年一度嘅，真係250次運動會啊，係咪咁計啊？一年一次定係4年一次㗎啦？我覺得係一年一次。除咗奧林匹克之外，仲有其他運動會嘅睇嚟。OK。Boxing event， 嚇嗰陣有 boxing。 好難揾嗰啲紫色嘅樹喎，周圍都係紫色。呢度有。咁當然啦，古代嗰啲衫其實係行動唔係幾方便嘅，即係你好難想像咁樣披住塊咁嘅布做運動，係。但係我覺得古代都有啲比較 tight fit 嘅衫，如果唔係點打仗？好似好正常。佢話即係除咗裸體之外，仲有咩衫着嘅啫？我覺得有啲軍用嘅衫係冇咁阻礙啲活動。好難揾下喎呢對嘢。 下面有第二個。真係都有輸到嘅。呢啲係白色嘅喎，我覺得應該有上顏料嘅喺嗰個年代。 點解呢個名係喺依個位彈出嚟嘅咧？
Pelops was both a legendary Greek hero and the mythical founder of the Olympic Games. According to legend, Pelops fell in love with the beautiful Hippodamia. Her father, Oinomaos, the king of Pisa, disapproved of their union. Having once heard a prophecy that he would be killed by his son-in-law, Oinomaos was known to challenge his daughter's suitors to chariot races, killing them when he won. Still, Pelops was determined to win Hippodamia's heart. Before the race, he enlisted the help of Poseidon, who gave him a golden chariot with 4 winged horses. Pelops was able to win both the race and the hand of his beloved, while Oinomaos was dragged to death by his horses. The start of this famous race was depicted on the eastern pediment of the Temple of Zeus.
OK， 殺咗你老婆個老豆，你取得呢個老婆嘅歡心，係咪太神奇呢個故事？點解做啲咁嘅嘢 ？Reassembled Pelops。莫名其妙啲故事。有幾多站？好似有排睇喎，呢個地方。
The Heraion was a temple dedicated to Hera. It is one of the oldest temples in the sanctuary, dating back to approximately 590 BCE. The structure included columns painted with images of women who won the Heraia, an athletic competition made up of running events. Every 4 years, 16 women were chosen to make a veil dedicated to Hera. These women also organized the competition, though they did not compete in it. The Heraia was unique for its focus on female athletes, in contrast to the male-exclusive Olympic Games.
會唔會裸體？會唔會裸體比賽嘅呢？ 都冇呢個地方。
Hera was the goddess of women, marriage, family, and childbirth. She ruled Mount Olympus as queen of the gods, along with her husband and brother Zeus. Many mythological stories paint her as being annoyed at Zeus's many lovers and illegitimate offspring. In Greek art, Hera is usually depicted as matronly and regal, often wearing a crown or sitting on a throne. She is also sometimes seen holding a pomegranate, a symbol of both fertility and death. Hera's cult was very popular across Greece, and Olympia even minted her image on its coinage.
真係多得羅馬帝國唔少啊！會出去羅馬 copy 晒呢堆嘢啫。真係連啲衣服嘅袖摺都整埋嘅喎，我諗原本係。其實如果係一個銅版嘅話，係可以用個係可以作翻嗰啲紋理出嚟嘅。應該係 Helen of Sparta 唔係 Helen of Troy。我真係估唔到係有女運動員嘅希臘。亂發嘅喎，天然卷嚟嘅我諗，古代係如果本身係直嘅頭髮係唔會無啦啦亂起身。 吓 Queen of Egypt 點解要嚟玩？馬其頓都過埋嚟玩。OK。
One of the highlights of the Olympic Games was a ceremony that took place on the third day of the festival. It began with a procession of athletes, ambassadors, Hellenodikai, and animals. The group made their way around the Altis until they arrived at the Temple of Zeus. Then the animals were brought in front of the altar of Zeus and offered as a sacrifice. This sacrifice was known as a hecatomb, a word that originally described the sacrifice of 100 oxen. During the hecatomb, the bones and legs of the animals were burned and carried to the top of a mound of ashes from previous sacrifices. Meanwhile, the meat of the animals was saved for a large banquet held later in the evening.
同甲骨文好似差唔多。我就有啲眼瞓啦。
The Olympic Games were dedicated to Zeus, and all the ceremonies and events were hosted in his honor It is no surprise that the largest temple in the sanctuary was the Temple of Zeus. While most temples were restricted to priests, the Temple of Zeus welcomed all who visited Olympia. This openness was most likely meant to show off the gold and ivory statue of Zeus that stood within the temple's walls. The building also featured art depicting both versions of the Olympic festival's founding myth. The eastern pediment showed a scene from the legendary race between Pelops and Oinomaos. The temple's metapiece, meanwhile, showed the 12 labors of Heracles, the other mythical founder of the games.
呢個係原品嚟嘅，過咗2500年都仲有咁多剩低，都算唔錯噶啦。OK。個太陽咁巧喺呢個地方曬入嚟，我諗係正東邊嚟嘅呢度。
Zeus was the god of sky and thunder, and king of the Olympians. He ruled the world from his home on Mount Olympus. The child of Cronus the Titan, Zeus overthrew his father and cast the Titans out in a great battle known as the Titanomachy. He had children of his own with his wife Hera, including Ares, Hephaestus, Hebe, and Eileithyia. He also had many children without Hera, much to her consternation. But there are too many to list here. Zeus was believed to have control over the lives of mortals, as his many epithets attest to. For example, his title Horkios made him a keeper of oaths, while Xenios was the name conferred to him as a protector of hospitality. In Greek art, Zeus was usually depicted holding a thunderbolt and sitting on a throne, befitting his position as king.
They also resulted in the birth of many Greek heroes 全部都係半神半人。話扮人老公咁過分。有眼瞓，哇！玩咗個幾鐘啦，其實我。
The Temple of Zeus was home to the Chryselephantine statue of Zeus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The statue, made of gold, ivory, and wood, was sculpted by the renowned artist Phidias. At 13 meters tall, it was as impressive looking as it was difficult to maintain. Oil was used to protect the wood and ivory from cracking and to prevent general decay. While the statue does not exist today, it was thankfully described by Pausanias in great detail, so its legacy lives on.
Roman era bronze copy. 唔知 copy 得幾好。即係雅典衛城係列唔到入去呢七大奇蹟入面嘅，其實就原來係可以咁玩嘅，可以企喺啲白色圈入邊，次次都唔知添。哇！終於搞掂，好眼瞓。
Hello again. I hope you enjoyed your visit and feel a little bit closer to the gods. Well, as close as a mortal can get. Is there anything else you'd like to do? Excellent. Let's see what you remember. Your first question is a simple one. Which goddess was Zeus's wife?
係咪過分簡單？
Correct. Not only was Ida Zeus's wife, she was his sister as well. But let's move on to the next question. What kind of contest did Pelops win in his quest to marry Hippodamia?
你講多次。
What kind of contest did Pelops win in his quest to marry Hippodamia? Yes, Pelops won a chariot race, thanks to Poseidon's help. And now, the final question. What was inscribed on the cup found near Phidia's workshop?
Keep calm and create one of the seven wonders 呢個絕對唔會係啊！全部都係搞笑。
Correct! Apparently, Phidias was very possessive of his things. Perhaps someone from the sanctuary kept stealing them. But I'm getting off track. Excellent work, friend! You honor the gods with your great wisdom. Of course! Follow me, my friend!
應該係講阿 Gora 下一個。好。